Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to this event. So my name is Tariq Mahmood and I'm the Vice Chair of the Islamic Culture Center and a student of Tajweed. Today's topic is on relationships, and as usual I will recite an ayah from the Quran, which is from Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse 1. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا وكثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. صدق الله العظيم. This verse meaning is, O mankind, fear your Lord who has created you from a single soul, Adam. From him he created his wife, Eve, and from them he created many men and women. Fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and do not cut the relationships of the wombs, kinship. Surely Allah is ever watchful over you. Again, Surah Nisa, verse 1. In this verse of the Quran, we are reminded that it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created mankind and then made its spouse, and through these two has the world been populated. It is only through the natural act of marriage between a man and woman that children can be brought into this world, as other forms of marriage are deviations that can never produce a child and thus an increase of population. Now I'll introduce our speaker. Sister Sidra Naeem is a qualified teacher who has been teaching in state schools for over 20 years, enabling her to gain knowledge on the new relationships and sex education policies. She is also an Aalima, which gives her a depth of knowledge on the Islamic perspective on relationships. She is an author of many books and journals and has written a few chapters in the book Quranic Approach to Sex Education. Sister Sidra has given training on the Islamic perspective on relationships to the NHS, Essex Police, local authorities and Havering Council. Her roles as a chaplain in the higher education sector has given her experience of relationship issues in youth situated in universities and colleges, as well as awareness of government policies related to this subject. And I'll invite Sister Sidra to continue with her presentation.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everybody, and Jazakallah khair for coming. We have actually got people here from East London today. This young lady came all the way from East Ham on the bus. So that is actually an example for everyone to follow. Right, there is a couple of reasons why we are doing this lecture today, which is on the Quranic approach to relationships and sex education. We will be looking at the Islamic guidance on how and what aspects of the RSC curriculum should be taught at each age. And the first half will be up to the ages of 10 years old, what they need to know. And then the second half, after we've had a break, will be teenagers up to adulthood. Okay, now there is at least 4 reasons why I'm doing this lecture today. First of all, it's Valentine's Day coming up on Friday, which we don't agree with. It's a pagan festival. We do not celebrate Valentine's Day. But some people get into so many haram relationships on Valentine's Day. So every time it is near Valentine's Day, I will always do a lecture on some kind of marriage topic. So we have done, for example, we did marriage last year, and we did the year before we did the marriages of the Prophet, and the year before we did Valentine's Day. Okay, the other reason why I'm doing this is that the new RSC curriculum is going to be statutory in schools from September 2020, and that curriculum is separate from any religious beliefs, completely separate from any religious beliefs. And there are so many things in that curriculum which we need to tell our children about ourselves, otherwise they will end up then following whatever the schools are saying. So it's very, very important we tell our children what the right way is. The other reason is, and I see that right here in this masjid, I'm glad the chairman is in the audience because he needs to know as well. In the madrasa, the children, they read the Quran in Arabic, they finish the Quran and then they just leave immediately. And that is just a huge problem within the Asian community at the moment. Huge, huge problem. The children do not actually know what is actually in the religion. So then they go out into the big wide world and they follow whatever their peers do. And when their children get off the rails, where do all the problems come? To me. I get hundreds of mums coming to me crying, our child has done this, our child's got a girlfriend, our child is doing this, this and this. We don't know what to do. And you know what I always say? I say, I told you so. So you do need to carry on with Islamic education even in our old ages, even now. It doesn't stop. Knowledge does not stop, especially Islamic knowledge. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself said, seek knowledge, did he not? Keep seeking knowledge. Did he stop all his dawah and all his preaching? He actually carried on right till on his death day, actually. Okay, so very, very important. Did you know that the Quran deals with human sexuality in 65 surahs, discussing various topics in 400 verses in the Quran. And that's actually apart from the hadiths. So if you don't translate the Quran in another language for the children who can't understand Arabic, that is actually 65 surahs, 400 verses that they are going to be less knowledgeable in. And if it's in the Quran, yes, it's okay for us to know about. If you look at Arabic children, do they not read the Quran from the age of 5 years onwards? Do they not then learn all of those things that are in the Quran? So if it's in the Quran, then that knowledge is for everybody right from age 5 onwards. So that is what we need to look at. There are TV adverts out there, there's trash programs like the X Factor, Towie. All of those are giving the wrong vibes to our children, really. And that is what they are following. I've also had meetings with Essex Police and Havering Council because I'm an advisor for them for ethnicity and different matters. And they gave me shocking facts. So you may think some of these bad things are happening just, for example, in East London. No, they're happening right here in Romford. Do you know why that is? Because there's less religion in Romford than there is in East London. In those areas, you're agreeing, I'm glad, there's more religion, is there not? There's more mosques. Everybody goes to madrasa. Everybody learns about all of this sex education stuff. In these areas, there isn't, the facilities are not there, and there's not that many Muslims either. So that's why it's even more important that we know about these things in these areas. Okay, so I have already done this lecture for 2 mosques in London. Very, very big turnout. There were lots of parents there. And it is, like I said, very important that we do it here as well, because I've actually had requests from the madrasa, from parents, that we need this topic. Now, the Department for Education is introducing a new compulsory relationships education curriculum for primary schools, which is then being fed also into secondary schools, and it will be statutory for September 2020. So, whatever your beliefs are, the children will have to learn these things in schools. Okay, now, did you know from the age of 4, what is the latest thing that is out in the curriculum? Who knows? Any idea? From the age of 4 in reception.
I think they are teaching children it's okay to be different.
Okay.
Yes.
That bit I'm going to cover in a minute. I'm starting from 4 years old first. What is in the curriculum at 4 years old? The latest big, huge uproar amongst the Asian community. Yes.
They're teaching the, same Homosexual relationships are okay.
Okay, that bit comes a bit later, but there's something at the age of 4 is in the curriculum. Aisha?
Parts?
Yes, yes. Private parts of children are being taught at the age of 4. And first of all, private parts are mentioned in the Quran. We've already spoken about Adam and Eve. Then they both ate of that tree, and so their private parts appeared to them, and they began to stick on themselves the leaves from paradise for their covering. So we know from a very early age in the Quran we have to cover those parts. Okay? O children of Adam, let not Shaitan tempt you as you removed your parents from paradise, stripping them of their clothing to show them their private parts. That is actually in the Quran, Surah Al-Araf. Okay? Now, does anybody know why they are teaching this in the schools at such a young age? There is a big fat reason.
Child abuse.
Child abuse. What kind of child abuse is happening out there? Sexual child abuse. Okay? So we need to understand why. Okay? And there has been a huge amount of sexual abuse that has increased in the past couple of years. Huge amounts. I've got statistics there. Does anybody know why sexual abuse has increased, especially here in the West? There are so many reasons.
So lack of awareness, because children doesn't know that, what does that mean if somebody is touching them on their private part. So
Yes.
they don't know how to react, they don't know what to do in that certain
Yes, so
situation.
this is the reason why they've introduced it, you see, so the child can be aware that nobody's allowed to touch them in those areas, and then they can tell the adults. But why has it increased in the first place? Sign of the times, isn't it?
Because of the exposure of media and wrong media.
Good. Well done.
Because
Kids are more accessible with the mobile phones these days, very
Good.
easily. They
Good.
know how to use it.
Yep,
Parents have given them the liberty
yep,
and they just do it.
brilliant. You can come here and do
But
this, can't
also-
you?
the adults, the biggest industry in America, for example, is the pornography industry.
Right,
So the
that's the
adults
other
have
one.
access to-
Okay, there are lots of reasons.
And also,
Viagra is out there
and also
off prescription, actually, isn't it?
Yes.
You don't even need a prescription for that. Anybody can go to the pharmacy and they can get Viagra, they get sexually stimulated, they've got to take it out somewhere, okay? Pornography, the increase in pornography, very easy, like you said, on your mobile phone, you can even access it, anybody can. That stimulates you, and then you want to get into those things, you've got to let it out somewhere, okay? Also, the other one nobody mentioned is, in the West, there's a lot of stepfathers, stepbrothers in the house, broken homes, okay? So, for example, I was actually a special needs coordinator for a long time. I dealt with looked after children, and do you know, 99% of those looked after children were taken away at a very young age because of sexual abuse. And it was actually stepfathers or stepbrothers in and out of the house, different boyfriends and stuff coming in, and that's not their child, is it? That's not their blood daughter. So why wouldn't they then, you know, use that person then as bad things? Okay, Nick, did you have one?
yeah, one of the other reasons it's gone up is because people are more open to talking about it, more open to accepting that a child might have been abused. Whereas 20 or 30 years ago, you wouldn't believe that adults would sexually abuse children, but now it's that actually we believe the child has been abused and we
Yes.
take their word for
Yes.
it,
Yes.
that these bad things can happen.
Yes.
So that increases the numbers as well, because
Good.
now we're listening to children.
Yes, so there's a lot more awareness out there, okay? So all of those things has risen. So now do you think it's okay to teach that at the age of 4? Yes, so do you understand where I'm coming from? We need to understand why, okay? So, it is taught actually in a very nice way. I have seen the curriculum. It's not explicit, okay? So this is actually a page of the new curriculum. Everyone has private parts. These are body parts that are covered by underwear. It is important to keep these parts private. This means that no one should ask to see them. This means that no one should ask to touch them. Private parts stay private. Now, is there anything nothing wrong with that. Okay? Right. Okay, the other very, very important thing is when your child goes round to someone's house for tea, how do you know who's in that house? How do you know if you're sending your child round to someone's house for tea and it's a non-Muslim household? Even a Muslim household, actually. Do you know, yesterday, oh my God, it was big shock horror. I went for a lunch with some of my old school friends, and one of them works in a court in East London. And obviously all the cases that come are all East London cases, and she came out with Muslims doing these kinds of things as well. So
They just convicted an imam in Ipswich for
Yeah.
historical abuse on girls and women that he's been training for years.
yes, and I've heard about that one as well, yes. So it doesn't mean anything. No matter how religious they are, they can still do it. In fact, like you said, an imam, again, you know, what can I say? I've come across 3 or 4 imams myself who've done that kind of stuff. So it doesn't mean anything. In fact, the more religious you are, the more shaitan will try and attack you, and the more you're tested as well. So be careful. And don't be alarmed if children come back from school telling you about their private parts. It's done in a good way to protect them, okay? And it is done in a very nice way, because I have seen that curriculum. Right, the other very, very important thing to tell your children at a young age is that you need a male and a female to have children, okay? So, fear your Lord, who has created you from a single soul, Adam. From him he created his wife Eve, and from them he created many men and women. Fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and do not cut the relationship of the wombs. Surely Allah is ever watchful over you. That's Surah Nisa, chapter 4, verse 1. That is actually the surah which you recited beautifully there. The brothers, the Jew is getting really good, isn't it? Have you noticed? Much, much better. Much, much better. Very happy about that. So the surah is a very, very good surah to explain that, for example, Eve was actually made for a reason. Allah didn't make Adam and Steve, he made Adam and Eve. Okay, do you like that one? He made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. The reason is that Eve was made so that they could procreate. Did you know men and women were created to procreate? So for that reason, the natural product of a man and a woman is children. You cannot get children from any other kind of relationship. And did you know that in Islam we're supposed to have lots of children, and one of the reasons why we're here is to multiply the offspring. So this is an Islamic point of view, and the children, your children, do need to know this at a young age. You can give them examples, because I'm giving you examples on how to teach them things like that. So for example, in the Quran, it tells you, and we created you in pairs. That is actually in the Quran. And you can explain to them that even animals, you need a male and a female, and then you get more animals, don't you? Okay? Every single thing has a male and a female. Even a flowering plant has a male and a female plant. And with animals, the most beautiful story, which is in the Quran, is actually Noah's Ark. Okay? That is an excellent story that you can tell your children, because why did Noah take on board a male and a female onto the ark? Why did he do that? Yes?
Because the people were being evil, so the God created a flood and Noah had to make an ark.
Yes, but why did he take a male and a female animal of each species onto the boat, onto the ark? Why didn't he just randomly just select just any old animals? Yes, Nick.
The young man's just put his hand up as well.
Oh, and do you know the answer? You've had a go. I think we'll go with Nick. Sorry.
So that they could breed. When they came off, they could repopulate the...
Yes, so Noah, or Hazrat Noah needed to repopulate the whole of the world again, did he not? If you had just randomly taken animals here and there, how would you repopulate the earth? So you took a male and a female of each species, so that after the flood, when the whole world has completely gone flat and flooded, the world can get repopulated again, okay? And then we also know that this also is in the Quran, every plant has a male and a female as well. Allah has sent down water from the sky. With it have we produced diverse pairs of plants, each separate from the other. That is in Quran chapter 20, verse 53. And this actually is very good because it tells you even plants have a male and a female gender. And did you know that even botany, if anybody's ever studied botany, there is for each and every plant a male and a female. And even plants that are unisexual, they have distinct male and female elements in them as well. Very, very interesting. It also mentions in the Quran about fruits are male and female. So this is how you can explain it to your children, because this is not on the curriculum. The curriculum will tell you other things. So, and he is the one who spread the earth and placed in it firm mountains and rivers, and from all of the fruits, he made it into two pairs. He covers the night with the day. Indeed, in that surely are signs for people who ponder. Quran Surah Al-Ra'd 13:3. So again, everything has a male and a female. Did you know even magnets have opposite poles? A positive and a negative. Ions have a positive and a negative. Have you ever? There's a bit of science coming out again, okay? So everything has positive, negative, you have acid, you have alkali, you have opposites of everything, okay? And then Hazrat Lut alayhi salam story, which is also in the Bible and it is also in the Torah. And we all know that story really well, but it's definitely one which needs to be told in the madrasa. I was actually shocked by something that one of the children told me recently, because they didn't know, and the following week, it was shock horror really, I quickly took out the story of Hazrat Lut alayhi salam and I did the whole Prophet Lot story to the children, and they didn't know any of it. So we all know the story about Prophet Lot. You can read up about that in your own time, but it is about same gender relationships, and Allah didn't like it and he sent a huge calamity. So first of all, Angel Gabriel came and he turned the whole land upside down, and then it rained acid rain and sulfur rain. And even now in that area in Jordan, I've been there, it's the lowest part of the land and it's so acidic that nothing grows in that part of Jordan. Very little grows in Jordan. And also that Dead Sea, which is where all the dead bodies went. Who's ever swam in that sea before? It is so sticky and horrible and disgusting. And did you know you're not allowed to go in that sea? I've got hadiths about that, where the Prophet Muhammad himself said that, I thought I'd ask everyone first, you see, and I'll tell them the bit afterwards. Prophet Muhammad said, when you go past that area, you look away. You're not allowed to go in that sea. When I went to Jordan, their mom was swimming away in that sea, and then I told him as well. I said, you know what, I need to tell you this. And you know what, he didn't know either. I sorted him out. I said, you're not supposed to be in there, and you're telling everyone else to go in.
Is it so shallow that you can see, even think of swimming?
Near the shore you can go in, but it's so acidic that bits of your skin come off. They do. It's so acidic, it actually rejuvenates all your skin and it strips you off your top layer of your skin. Okay, let's carry on. So, in Islam...
You know, I have actually heard so many stories about people who have swim in Black Sea, even if they are not Muslim. Somebody very close at my workplace,
Yes.
he said that his flu doesn't go away since he swam in Black Sea and then he died of cancer.
Yeah.
So
Black Sea or the Dead Sea?
you know the one where
The Dead
changed
Sea.
over
Yeah, that's the
there.
Dead Sea, not, but the Black Sea is a different place.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we'll carry on, we'll swiftly move on. But yeah, you're not supposed to swim in the Dead Sea. I know that. I have got a hadith about that where the Prophet said you look away, that is where all the calamities happen, you're not allowed to go in, and then you're swimming with all the dead peoples, which God had sent out azab on top of, basically. Okay? Right, let's carry on. Now, despite what I've said, in government law, and we do have a police officer here today with us, who is Nick, so I am going to make sure that I say whatever I say correctly. She's going to keep me in line. Despite what our religion says, one of the things which is actually in the law that you are not allowed to talk about is sexual orientation, against it. Okay? So no matter what your beliefs are, you say them at home. They are not allowed to then go into schools and then start saying, oh, you're bad and you're bad and you're bad. Otherwise, you will be in deep trouble. Okay? So race, religion, disability, sexual orientation is the one we're dealing with. You have to still respect them. Okay? My boss, she's left now, but she was a lesbian. And I still had to respect. I didn't know she was one to begin with. So she'd often kiss and hug me a lot. She used to really like me and she'd be kissing and hugging me. And then one day she said she's got a wife at home, and you know what, I thought, oh God, she better stop kissing and hugging me now. So then I started sort of putting my hands up, you know, when she came near me. So, you know, but in public, in workplaces, I work in a place where there's so much of all of that kind of stuff. You are not allowed to discriminate them from jobs. You still have to talk to them properly. It's the act that we don't like. It doesn't mean that it's the person that we don't like. Okay? According to Islamic law, you're supposed to break off all ties with them, because we know that in Islam breaking off ties is a very big thing, because you won't enter Jannah. Okay? So in Islam you're supposed to break off all ties, but Gladys isn't here today. She would have said, what does it say in the Bible? Does anybody know?
Probably get stoned to death.
You kill them, basically.
Yeah.
So did you know that that is there to stop the act happening? That is actually in the Bible and in the Torah. So our religion is more lenient than the previous religions. Okay? So please be careful with this. You're not allowed to say anything in public. You have to include them. It's in the law, and you can get into a lot of trouble.
So does that include like social media as well? So people that are posting up like Quranic ayahs about what Islam says about what we believe in sexual orientation, is that public? It's out there in the public.
I think all social media is being monitored, and we have to be careful. So whatever you want to say, you say in the privacy of your own homes to your own children. But that doesn't mean you don't tell them. I was speaking to Nick earlier. Nick, do you want to repeat what you said to me earlier?
Yeah, it's really important to discuss.
Yes.
Because it is out there. Children will see people as same-sex couples, and they need to know that you respect them. You don't have to like what they do,
Yes.
because nobody can control your thoughts.
Yes.
But you have to respect them, you have to behave properly.
Yes.
But you yourself can go, actually, I don't believe that that's appropriate. But we need to talk about it.
You do need to talk about it.
Absolutely, and I was really pleased that you were doing this, because certainly within the Islamic community, it seems to be kind of, actually, we don't ever talk about any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's just actually we need to.
And you know what? I've had to speak to parents, because I've had 2 boys who told me they were gay, and that is here in this mosque. Yeah, I'm not joking. So I had to speak to the parents that, look, you need to tell them, you know, what we believe at least, and then it's up to them what they do. Okay, the other one, which is very important, and it is on the RSC curriculum, the new curriculum, is that you are allowed to change your gender, okay? So, and you can change that either by dressing differently or through hormones, if you don't feel happy with yourself. So that is the other one. In Islam, we have got good guidelines on this. So Abu Huraira said the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam cursed the man who put on woman's clothing and the woman who put on man's clothing. That's in Dawood. Ibn Anas narrated the Prophet cursed the men who act like women and the women who act like men. clothes shouldn't resemble that of the opposite gender. Now, we have already got guidelines on the sunnahs of dressing for men, which I already did in the hijab lecture. Can anybody tell me a couple of things which men are not allowed to wear because they're girly type items? The sunnahs of dressing are actually over there. I've got a big booklet there which everyone can take.
Silk,
afterwards.
gold.
Yes. Did you have an answer?
Men should wear silk, I understand.
Good. Excellent. Okay. Men will wear silk when they get up to Jannah. Okay. But also it's a female thing. Okay. So our Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam prohibited the wearing of silk and gold for men, but permitted the ladies. So we have got hadiths to tell us that the Prophet got angry and he cut and distributed it amongst the women when he came across someone wearing a silk shirt. The other thing mentioned there is gold. Gold is actually for women, and men are not allowed to wear gold, so there's lots of reasons. There's also staying humble as well, and they will wear gold adornments when they get up to Jannah as well. What's the other one that men are prohibited to do, which is likened to a woman?
Keep the hair long.
Pardon?
Keep the hair long.
Yeah, they're not allowed to have long hair, but there's another one.
Oh,
Yes?
and they're not allowed to have short hair.
No? Something to do with
Piercing.
ears. Pardon?
Ear piercing.
Ear
What's it?
piercing. Good, well done. I'm glad you're in the audience. Ear piercing. Okay? Ear piercing is a woman's thing, isn't it? Okay? Women pierce their ears. Men, this is another thing rife out there in the culture nowadays. How many boys have got studs in their ears and all the other earrings and things and all sorts? Yeah? In their nose as well. That is a woman's thing. Okay, and we are not allowed. When I did my hijab lecture, I did explain all of that. So you need to watch the hijab lecture again. And tattoos is not allowed either. That's decorating your skin. But females are allowed to have henna tattoos, for example. So we've already got guidelines on that. Now, why is it in Islam that if you're born a girl or a boy, then you are not then allowed to change your gender? Why is that in Islam? We're not allowed to do that. What do we believe in as Muslims?
Because
Anybody at the back, have you got an answer there? No. Yes?
Because Allah created you, how we wouldn't create you.
Good, good. So Allah created us the way He created us, and we're not allowed to go against destiny. Okay? If you look at the Imam Mufassal, okay, everything, every belief, all good and bad is from Allah. Okay, so we are not allowed to then change our gender. Okay, this is something rife in the schools to such an extent that the children are growing very, very mixed up. From an early age, doubts are being sealed into their hearts that if you don't feel this, then you could be this. And right down to friends. So naturally girls have friends which are girls, and then they think maybe there's something wrong with them and maybe they need to be something else, that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of stuff going on, a lot of tampering going on with gender, and you're actually tampering with destiny according to Islam.
What does Islam say about, you know, you have those people that are, sorry, is it transgender or people that are born with some parts that are not?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
What does Islam
yes,
say about that?
yes. Now, I have come across this myself at my university, okay? So sometimes, biologically, you are born looking different and your private part is different, okay? In that case, the ruling is that you go by what private part you've got, okay? So I do know somebody who looks like a female, but unfortunately her private part is a male private part. And the guidance I gave her was go to the doctors and get male hormones and make yourself male, because that's what your private part is. So that is the ruling you go by. And she did listen to me as well, because it made sense to her. So this is different. If it's a medical reason, it's different. Okay? Good question, and I'm glad we covered it now. Right, whatever your beliefs are on this topic, it will be taught in schools. It is on the RSC curriculum. It is there, okay? And the other worry we've got is that it is in law that you are not allowed to say anything bad against them. Okay, so gender identity is actually one of the 5 things in law which you are not allowed to, under any circumstance, say anything against. So you can tell your children at home, but when they go out, they're not allowed to say anything in schools. Okay? There are actually gender-neutral toilets that are being built everywhere. We've got a couple in my university where I work, in colleges as well. If you want to tell your children at a young age, tell them just not to use those toilets. At the moment, it hasn't come to the stage where they're all gender-neutral, but some are only male, some are only female, and some are gender-neutral. If you go to gender-neutral one, there could be anybody in there. Okay, so be careful. Again, your children, they need to be protected. Like I said before, do not cause harm nor respond to harm with harm. So we have to be very careful with what we say and do. Ofsted look for race hatred and homophobic behaviour in schools. They may talk to your child about it. Okay, this happened actually in a school in Birmingham. So be very careful. Your child still needs to know that's only in your religion, but according to the law, which is the law of the land that we follow as Muslims, we have to follow the law of the land. Then according to the law, we can't say anything. We still respect them as human beings. Okay, is that understood? Good. Okay, now as your child gets older, because I'm doing under 10, the next part will only be discussed in schools if somebody, for example, it's usually girls, end up on their monthly cycle. Okay? And then they will then start the sex education talk in schools. Now, in our days, when I was your kind of age, it was done at secondary level. And that really is the best age for Muslims to discuss. I feel they're far too young, especially the videos they show are far too explicit. They actually show the private parts, which we are not allowed to see, really, okay, until we get married, okay? So, you are allowed to take the video home, you are allowed to watch it, and at the moment as it stands, you can take your children out if you do not want them to watch it. The problem we've got is with the new curriculum, you cannot take your children out. So they will have to watch all of it, but you will have to get your children ready well beforehand on what we believe as Muslims, okay?
Can you
have
tell
to be
please,
honest.
Sorry, which year you are talking about?
I'm talking about, in every school it's different. So did you know, even from the age of 8, they can start talking about this subject if somebody in that school has started their monthly cycle. Okay? Because in the school...
It depends on school.
Now, I'll tell you something interesting. When I started teaching 20 years ago, the average age was about 10 years old, where they would start the sex education talks in year 5. But did you know, because of the extra females in the water, female hormones in the water nowadays, which are not extracted out, you know, through the pill and things like that, there's more female hormones in the water nowadays, which is changing the structure of females. They are starting their monthlies earlier, and hence this is why, by the way, you've got more lesbians and gays as well. There's another thing there as well about that. There is medical journals to talk about that kind of stuff. So because of that, it's earlier. It can be as early as 8 years old, okay? So with your children, they will ask you questions when they come home. You need to be honest. Okay, because I still haven't forgiven my mum for what she told me about my baby brother. Honestly, you know, when I think about what she told me, I have still not forgiven her. She said, oh, a phone call comes from Allah, right? A phone call comes from Allah to your house, and Allah gives you a date. This is the date when your baby brother will come. So then on that date, I went to the hospital, and that date, a stork came down with the baby, And I said, but Mum, because I'm not daft, am I? I said, Mum, but how did you know that baby was yours? She said, oh, you know that hospital tag you get here? It had the baby's name on it, and I know it had the mother's name on it, so then they knew that baby was mine. So she says, first you pray to Allah, and then when it's time to answer your prayers, you get a phone call. To tell you, I mean, do you know, I believe that for years. I seriously believe that for years. When my brother was born, I was 8 years old at the time. This is how naive we were in those days. And you know, all the congratulation cards all had a stork on there, didn't it?
Yeah.
With a baby in the stork. So I really believed it. So, do you know what? You should not do that. And I really am very hurt about that, even now. Okay? Because you will never trust your parents ever again with no matter what they tell you. Okay? So to a certain extent, it needs to be a little bit nearer to the truth. So the way I explained it to my children was I used a chicken and an egg. Okay, and that is the best, because we had a chicken, we had a hen in our garden, and my daughter knew it lays eggs, and she knew about if we got a cockerel, it would fertilise the egg and then you have a baby. That's a good way, a very nice, innocent way of explaining it to children. But children are not daft nowadays, because they will hear it from everywhere else. Will they not? You just got to put EastEnders on and it's happening even on there. So
I think that's one of the dilemma of Asian or Desi parents.
Yes.
They don't want to talk about it.
yeah.
When,
It is important to talk about
but
it.
when somebody starts talking about it, we get panic.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
the fact that we all are here,
Yes.
we want to talk about it,
Yes.
but we don't talk about it at home. And that's really important, and that's why I'm glad we are having this discussion
Yes.
with our kids.
Yes.
Because
Yes. Good.
now we are in that panic mode where we are not aware what's going to be taught to our kids at school.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's important, we talk to our kids about this topic
Yes,
at home.
I'm so happy you said that. This is why I felt we really needed to do this lecture, because with the new curriculum coming out, it is panics out there. And if the parents don't talk about it with the children, then who else is going to?
Absolutely.
You see? And this is why I had that problem in the madrasa, where I had 2 boys who told me that they were gay. And they didn't know anything else. They didn't know anything about their religion. And that really worries me a lot. The other thing is I went to Havering Council and they gave me statistics on Muslims who are now transgender and also different sexualities. And that really worried me a lot, because it's happening right here in Romford. People may think it doesn't happen in Romford, like I said, people say it might happen in East Ham. No, it's happening more here because there's less religion here. Okay? Yes?
When I was 9 or 10 in junior school, I remember a video being shown where babies come from. I came home full of energy, told my mum about it, and I got a slap in the face.
And you know, with me as well, every time I ask my mum, she goes, you can't talk about that kind of stuff. So it was really, it's not good, because then you grow up all confused on, you know, what actually happens. And children nowadays, they will hear it from somewhere else. It's worse when you hear it from somewhere else, is it not? Especially from non-Muslims, then what? You know,
sometimes it can be confusing, because I remember my mum, we were like 3 sisters very close in age, so one was like 12, 11 and I was 9. And I was a bit young, she sat us all 3 of us down and told us at the same time, and I went home, sleep that night thinking, oh my God, does this only happen to Muslims? Because I was too young, that age, because so sometimes you have to kind of like see what the age of the child is as well.
So, so the other very important thing is, yes, we're going to do questions after, but we'll carry on.
I have actually a quick question. You know, nowadays when we ask from children what they have been taught in a school, they don't actually tell. For example, at the age of 4, when they were speaking about the private part, only I knew through the school communication. So I have seen kids doesn't talk about these things, what they have been learning from school.
Yes, but shall I tell you who they do tell?
Yeah.
They tell their madrasa teachers.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what? I just find it amazing what the children tell me. Do you know that? They feel they can talk to me because I don't shoo them away. So I really talk to them and they tell me everything. In fact, I'll tell you something else that happened in the madrasa here. Again, I was doing a talk on marriage with the children, and one of the children put their hand up and said, why doesn't an Asian man and woman kiss when they take their vows? You know, when you do the vows and then you go, you can now kiss the bride. Anyway, the little boy, he stood up and he asked me that question. Well, his mum was in the audience and she slapped him one in front of everyone. She goes, how dare you ask that question? Then sharam nahi aaye, tu aisa tu guru galak tu kitni kyun hai? She was just, this is exactly how she was talking. She goes, then sharam nahi aaye, tu meri besti kar deti hai. You know, you defamed me by doing that and that kind of stuff. And I thought, you know what? He just wants to know. He just wants to know. So anyway, after the lecture, then after I went quietly up to him, I said that in our religion, there's a lot more shame, there's a lot more hijab. We don't do that kind of stuff in public. They don't know, do they? And then I told the mum off. I said, look, you're not allowed to do that because that will stop him asking you anything again in the future. It will stop you. Okay? Yes. Right, the other very, very important thing on that sex education curriculum under 10 years old is they will tell you it's okay to have relationships as long as you use contraception. That is what is in the schools, it is. Okay? So it is very important for you to tell your children, no, only a husband and wife, only when you are married can you have that relationship. Now, there are so many things in the Quran.
How can we know that they are teaching this in school?
I'm telling you that they are. I know the curriculum. I'm a teacher.
Because they don't tell us that they are being
They're
taught.
not going to tell you, but I'm telling you. That's why we're having this talk. Okay? Yeah, it's on the curriculum. I can send you the curriculum. You
Okay,
can
and if let's say they don't give you the curriculum, because I have been going and asking for a curriculum online, you
It's
can
on the
find,
internet.
yeah, every year's curriculum, and that's how I find what have been they taught in the religious
Good.
studies,
Yeah.
for the sex education, private part. So I started preparing myself at
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
So it's online. You
Good.
might have to pay some subscription, but you can get the curriculum.
Good, well done. That's a clever mum there.
Yeah.
That's what you all need to do.
Is it
And
school
dads
specific?
as well. Okay?
Is it school
Right.
specific? Is it specific?
Yeah,
to the
if you
school?
write key stage 2 year 2 curriculum for religion education, for sex education, everything will come up because internet will not know if it's a teacher or a mom googling up. So they
Okay.
will give you that.
Now remember, in the Quran, everything is there that you need to know. Everything. Okay? There's a whole book there, which I actually wrote parts of. The whole book is on Quranic approach to sex education. It is a very clean book. Ayahs of the Quran, surahs in there, hadiths in there. Use these kinds of things to teach your children. Okay? The stages of the fetus right down to science are actually in the Quran. And certainly did we create man from an extract of clay, then we placed him as a sperm drop in a firm lodging, then we made the sperm drop into a clinging clot, and we made the clot into a lump of flesh, and we made from the lump bones, and we covered the bones with flesh, then we developed him into another creation. So that is Surah Al-Mu'minun, the believers. All the stages of conception are actually in the Quran. So what else do you need? You can explain it through there. Okay, and you can show them pictures as well. And one thing, like I said, they do need to know is that it is always within marriage and a male and a female that will make the children. Because it is in that curriculum where they will be told else. He is the one who created the two kinds, male and female, from a tiny drop of semen. It's actually in the Quran. So if you look at Arabic-speaking children, do they not read the Quran at 5 years old? And they understand it straight away. So you can do it in your own way, okay? The other thing that they must know about at a young age is who they can marry and who they can't. Because there is a very big thing out there about, it's awful actually, it's quite disgusting where it's out there that, you can marry your children and things like that. It's actually quite big out there. There's loads and loads of bad things out there. Relationships you can have. It's happening, okay? So tell them who who they can marry and who they can't at the young age. Okay? If your child starts their monthly, which is actually quite common nowadays and they're under 11, it is up to the mothers to talk to them about cleanliness and ghusl. So ghusl has to be done after the monthly, and also cleaning yourself as well afterwards. Okay? This is more of a worry for the girls, but boys is much later they start their puberty. Okay? Right, I have finished the first part, which was under 10 years old. Can we have the lights on for questions? I think we did cover some questions as we go along. And then I need to get to teenagers after that. Okay? Anybody got any questions? Shall we have that one in the men's and we'll have the other one in the ladies?
Assalamu alaikum, sister. Question, the statistics you showed earlier, were they for England or Essex or
They were for
Britain?
Essex.
Essex,
They were
okay.
Essex statistics, yes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Anyone else from the men's? Yeah.
Right, so again, thank you very much for arranging this talk. It's very, very useful. But since you are a parent yourself,
Yes.
what do you think what's the right age when we should start talking about these things with our kids? And from your personal experience as well, I mean, what's the best way to actually start talking about this and telling them that this whole thing, the whole landscape of sex education, the difference between male and female and where these things actually go. So just in a nutshell, that how can, as a parent, as a dad, let's say, I can deal with this kind of situation.
Okay, 4 years old, again I told you about the private parts. From 4 years old they need to know that it's a male and a female. From there you get children. They have to know that. I have been in a reception class of 4-year-olds where there was a story about a prince marrying a prince. He couldn't find a princess, so he married a prince. Okay? That is rife out there. That's been going on for the past 5-6 years. So they need to know you get a male and a female, only then you can have children. They also need to know you only get married first, then you can have that kind of relationship. So that's all they need to know, unless your daughter starts her monthly. She will be scared, she will need to know what on earth is going on. Then the chicken and the egg is the best way to explain it, like I said. But also, like I said, within marriage only, you know, that kind of stuff. And then secondary I'm going to cover now, which is the next stages. That's when it gets really bad out there. Okay? Right, any ladies? Let's have Nick. If we can shut that one. I've got a separate one for the ladies.
I was really pleased that you're talking about the private parts, because that's so important. I've dealt with child abuse situations, and having children giving really weird names for bits of their anatomy creates real issues, you know, for investigating officers, or even for social workers or teachers or parents. You know. So I was really pleased you showed that bit. Just as a sort of thing that when you say that when the children, you know, when girls start their monthlies, that's when the schools is that as far as you're aware, because that's when they can reproduce technically.
Yes.
So that the whole school really needs to know that you're into a sort of a potentially very dangerous time for little girls.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So it's around that rather than.
Remember, when they do that talk, there's going to be many girls who haven't started their monthlies as well. But that's the trigger in a way for schools to know when they should do it. Like I said, in the schools I've worked in, and the schools I've worked in have been Church of England, very strict. 8 years old it was. And I did take the video home, and it was awful. Awful, even for me as an adult to watch that. There was all sorts on there, and I just thought, no way. I took both of my children out, actually. And the head teacher was not happy, but I don't care. I said, I'm going to tell them in my own way, because the video I saw was so un-Islamic, where they said, you know, you can have relationships as long as you're safe and have contraception and all the rest. It's awful.
Which level you are talking about? Which
This
year?
is under 11, primary school. primary school. You're getting worried, aren't you? Well, so you should be. Right, can we pass it back to the sister there? In a minute, please.
I really appreciate this kind of class.
Yes.
Because one thing is, in Islam, mostly we Muslims, there are lots of things we think they are not normal. We don't have to discuss.
Yes.
And this is really, it's in our kids.
Yes.
In the other religion, there are so many, like when you say your children don't open up,
Yes.
it all depends on how we communicate with them.
Yes.
Normally as parents, you know, in Islam, most of us, we are single moms, the dads are always busy. Every day as a mother, when immediately I picked up my kids in school, and then what happened today, that is when the discussion starts. And I can remember a day, my boy just walked to me, as in he's 8 now, then he was 7, and he said, oh, I helped one of my classmates today, and he said, oh, you wish we get married in future.
Oh, right.
This is boy to boy now. And he was like, Mommy, but I told him that was disgusting. Just because we've been talking about things like this. But we parents, we always shy off this kind of thing. That, no, like you said, your mother did. Just the child asking why they no kiss. These are so many things, it's not permitted, but we always cover it.
Yes.
Like, no, this is not Islamic. So we should do better.
Talk about it.
We should talk about it.
Shall I tell you
Islamic
something
kind.
else that's happening in the schools? If boys talk to boys and have friends, boys' friends,
Yeah.
people say, oh, you're gay. So then they've started to make friends with girls now, just to show they're not gay.
Yeah.
So what we need to explain is it is all right to be friends of the same gender.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're gay.
You're gay, yeah. And about toileting,
Yes.
because even at home, my kid from 3,
Yes.
they, you know, when any of them is in the toilet, you don't go in.
Yes.
Even when you dress them up, you dress up in the toilet, put on your pants before you go to your room. So these are the little things some of us overlook.
Yes.
And before we know it, it's out of hand. So we should not be ashamed of educating these people. Islam talked about sex, the Islam and sex. We should look into it properly and educate them Islamically. So when they go out, they will not be messed up.
Yes, good, well done, excellent. Anybody else? Because I want to move on to secondary school. Is there anyone else there?
So.
Thank you, Sidra. I just wanted to make a comment and then I also had a question as well. One of the comments was that in my learning, because I like to read a lot of psychology and stuff, one thing that I discovered before I had to do like serious teenage parenting was that the human race is the only species that actually its reproductive organs are developed before the brain is developed. And this really helps me in educating my children, because what I realise is that their hormones are ready for adult life,
Yes.
but their brains are not developed, so the prefrontal cortex basically.
Yes.
It actually helps the parents to understand why their child is going through all these confusing and conflicting thoughts. It's
Yes.
because their brain is actually not developed to deal with their adult body that's become adult early in their brain. But in
Yes,
the
and
adult-
that's a very good one, because did you know at a young age, children are being told they can change their gender, yet their hormones haven't come into play yet.
Exactly.
Did you know when you're teenagers, you're trying to find your own identity, let alone start worrying about what gender you may be. Your hormones are all over the place. when
So
you're
what you're kind of
teenagers.
told, you know, the part about obedience to parents, that's is like, I am your prefrontal cortex until you are like, I'm trying to do the thinking for you.
Yes.
So that's when you've got to come and talk to us, say, look, we can do the thinking for them, and tell them, no, that's the right way to think, that's the wrong way to think, until they get to age 21, so they keep developing, their brain develops. So that's what you just need to be aware of all the time. So I just wanted to comment, that's really helped me a lot in parenting my daughter. The other thing I wanted to ask was that on the same lines, there's a lot of information out there regarding homosexuality that's available on the internet. And one thing that I came across was one very famous actor who said that he'd done a whole program on it, saying that, oh, I'm like the middle child, and because I'm the third son, I have certain hormones, which means it makes me more likely to be gay, and all these things. And trying to show that there's a chemical imbalance which has caused me to be or homosexual. So
Now, if that was the case, then why is it that Allah said in the Quran to break off all ties with them?
No, I completely
See,
understand. So what I'm saying,
yes.
because there's so much false information out there,
Yes.
it's trying to show the scientific way of why someone might be. Children are believing that. So what does Islam say? Does it say there's absolutely no chemical imbalances, absolutely no
There
hormonal-
can be like the third gender.
Right.
Okay, so I spoke to you already about a girl, poor thing, who's got a male private
Yeah, we
part,
talked about that, yes.
and yet from her face she looks female. What you go by then is your reproductive part. It's when you're changing your reproductive part that where the biggest problem is. Because then you're completely changing the whole of your body chemistry and Allah's nature
But
completely.
Islam is 100% clear, isn't it, on this point that there's,
Yes.
apart from that,
Others,
there's
why
no-
did Prophet Lot, why did all that happen then? You see? Okay, so yeah, Islam is actually quite clear on the subject, like Christianity is and so is Judaism.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
right. Did everybody want a 5-minute break before we go on to secondary years? That's when it gets really hot, some of the topics. So if you have got very young children and you don't want them to hear, mind you, believe me, they hear everything anyway out there, then now will be the time for you to go. But if you want to stay for the second part, which would be beneficial for adults as well, because there's a lot of adults who are doing all of these things that I'm going to go through, including pornography and all the rest, then you should stay. Okay, so I'll leave it up to you. You can take a photo of it and just find out. And I don't earn money out of this, by the way. I helped somebody else to write it, but I don't earn money out of any Islam that I do whatsoever, just in case you think I'm here to come on couple. I've made that clear. I don't earn money out of anything Islamic. Right, we're now going to move on to secondary school, okay? With the girls, you've already told them that about personal hygiene. So, for example, you have to do ghusl after your monthly finishes, okay? With boys, when they get to about 14 years old, their voices will break. As soon as their voices break, you know they have reached puberty, okay? And you will know they will get more muscular, they'll get more hairier, then you know that all the testosterone has kicked in, blah, blah, blah. So it's very important at that age that you tell your children, and this is really, it's the job of the fathers to do this bit. It really is. I hate it when fathers leave these kinds of things to mothers, and it is not really a topic for mothers to discuss with their sons. So fathers need to explain that, first of all, you have to, cleanliness is very important, so you shower at least every other day, okay, because you sweat more, and also underarm and pubic hair does need to be removed. You would be so surprised how many boys and girls don't know this. Yes, you can. And you know what? They get married, and who do you think tells them? Their spouses. How embarrassing is that?
Because you're standing in front of
Yes. So it is very, very important. Okay, so again, important to tell the young boys that. We already know this from hadiths. We know Prophet Muhammad used to pluck the hairs under his armpits. So this is not anything different you're telling, you're just following the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad And the sunnahs of cleanliness is something you should tell your children anyway. There are sunnahs of cleanliness which are all the hadiths to do with cleanliness. Okay, and that includes when you go to do Jummah, it includes ghusl, wudu, everything. Okay? The next one is very, very important. You need to go into the history of the religion, what used to happen before Islam actually came. Okay? And there were all these things, and you know what? You will get shocked when you read these. You will know that these are actually happening now in our dunya at the moment. So, nudity was happening before Prophet Muhammad came. Nudity is actually equivalent to pornography nowadays. Okay? Sexual slavery was going on. Did you know that is equivalent to modern day sex slavery nowadays? heard of that term? Yes, it's hugely big out there. I went actually on a course very recently on this. Okay, and the other one is prostitution was out there. Women were not regarded as anything. They were just used as objects, basically, for men's desires. They had no status in society, nothing. Okay? Persecution of women. Again, they were not treated very well. Widows died due to poverty as no one married them. So women were not regarded as pure once they were widowed. So all the men wanted young girls, virgins. They couldn't care less. And the poor widows actually died after their husbands died in war and battles. Fornication was rife. Okay? Again, women were treated like property, and they were being used and abused for desires in men. Polygamy was rife. Hundreds and hundreds of wives were actually men had just for their own pleasures. Slaves were mistresses. Okay, slaves are vulnerable. They don't have money. They're servants in the house. They were used as mistresses by the men. Prisoners of war became prostitutes. So whenever there was a war, any women who were captured were then used as prostitutes. This was all happening before Islam came. And celibacy was going on. Who knows what celibacy is? Any ideas? Yes.
It's when you don't get married and you're kind of like the priests and the monks that you don't have any.
Good. So within Christianity, the religion before, did you know women were unclean, and it was said that they don't even have a soul, and it was also said they can't practice their religion properly while they're being married. So celibacy was introduced. Even now, Catholic monks do not get married. Okay? So that is everything that was happening. It was only when Prophet Muhammad came that modesty was introduced, resulting in preserving honor and morals in society. Marriage was strongly recommended. In fact, marriage is actually half of faith. Respect, honor, dignity to women was given. And the only legitimate halal way to indulge in intimacy between a man and a woman is actually through marriage. Islam greatly encourages to uphold family unit, which is very, very important. And Prophet Muhammad said there's no celibacy in Islam, marriage is half of faith. He gave examples of previous prophets who all got married and had children, apart from Jesus, but there was a reason, because he got lifted up very early. He is yet to come back down, and we believe he will then get married and have children. We know this from the Hadith, don't we? Okay? So this is very, very important for teenagers to understand at that age, so that they do not use and abuse women and do not get into these things, which we are going to talk about: nudity, which is pornography, the slavery is going on, modern day slavery, prostitution is going on, fornication is right out there. It scares me that all these things happened before Prophet Muhammad came, and yet they're happening now. Does it not scare you? Yet we know the boundaries of our religion. Okay? So, praise be to Allah, for the first time in any religion, Allah actually made marriage a noble tradition in Islam and a barrier between halal and haram. And again, it's very important after teenagers to explain this, because on the teenage curriculum it tells you you can do what you like as long as you use contraception. Nobody will find out. Okay? And then, as the children grow up, as soon as they start their monthlies and the boys break their voices, it is natural, is it not, that they are now ready to reproduce, so feelings are going to come in them. Think of the natural world, okay? We can't deny this. As soon as they break their voices and the women start their monthlies, they're ready to reproduce, aren't they? So nature's way is they are going to fall in love with people who they will want to marry and then produce children. Yes? Okay, so due to the free mixing in this country, especially where, colleges, universities are all mixed, the chances are that your children will come across somebody else and they will fall in love, and they need to know that once you fall in love, the only way is to get married. Okay? So you cannot really do anything else. And at a young age in Islam, this is the reason why in Islam at a very young age you get married early, because to stop anything bad happening in the future. You're supposed to get married early, otherwise the longer you leave it, the more chances you are going to delve into these haram kinds of relationships. Does that make sense? Okay? The earlier you catch them, according to Islam, with girls it's by their second monthly cycle. Did you know they're supposed to get married? Because they are ready to, others why did Allah make their cycle start? They are actually ready physically. Okay? And we need to also look now at the example of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and Khadija. She fell in love with him, did she not? Yes? She had a dream about him. She was dreaming about him, wasn't she? And then she fell in love with him. What did she do? She sent her friend, first of all, to see Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, a friend Nafisa, and said that to find out does he like her. Yes, and he did. So it was a love story, instant love story. And after that, she straight away went to her cousin Baraka, and he went to his uncles, and then they arranged the marriage at a very early age. Did they go into meeting each other, dating each other, having a bit of a chit-chat? No. Did they? No. Okay, so that is the example that we need to follow. And it is up to parents really to not say no if everything is fine. If both of the boy and the girl are Muslim and they like each other and there's no reason why you should stop them, you shouldn't really, because it will cause big problems in the future. Because in a minute I'm going to talk to you about the process that then happens when you're in love with someone, which leads to the forbidden acts. And that's nature. Nature does that. So better to catch it early, get them married. Okay? Right. So we need to give them the example of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We also need to give them the example of his other marriages as well, where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam married prisoners of war. One of them was a slave. Maria was a slave, and he married her to show people, do not use and abuse your slaves, do not keep them as mistresses. And he married Khadija, who was widowed twice. She was actually widowed twice and was 40 years old. He was only 25, young, handsome man. Tell me which young, handsome man is going to marry a 40-year-old nowadays who's been widowed twice? Not very many. They all want young girls, don't they? They all want young virgins, don't they, at that age? So he was the best example really to show us the way that we should really be. Okay? Sometimes, and I have seen this myself again, I do work with the community and I see everything. Sometimes the man's married, okay, and they fall in love with another girl. That can happen because you cannot stop falling in love with people, basically. If it happens, it happens, you click. Then in that case, obviously, you are allowed then to marry another wife. And I do know somebody already who was married and then ended up taking this other girl who he fell in love with as a second wife. Because it is allowed in Islam, isn't it? You're allowed up to 4. So again, we need to be open-minded. It's allowed in the religion. If it's allowed in the religion, if the Prophet did it, then you can do it. Okay? It's not a big taboo that you just can't. Isn't it better that that man does that then secretly meets her and does fornication then? Is that not worse?
Yes.
Yes? So the halal way is you marry them. End of the story. It doesn't get to that stage. Okay? But if you carry on, it will lead to that forbidden act. Okay? Now, the other thing which children do need to know is, especially boys, when they don't get married, what are you asked to do to suppress your sexual feelings? Fasting. Okay, so Abdullah who reported that Allah's Messenger said to us, young men, those among you who can support a wife should marry, for it restrains eyes and preserves from immorality, but he who can't afford it should observe fast. It's a means of controlling desire. That's in Sahih Muslim. And when you fast, you refrain automatically, basically. And
girls do that as well. If you think that girls nowadays are,
they can do, because if you think about it, when you're fasting, you don't have relationships with your spouses, do you, while you're fasting? So it refrains you as well. But in a minute you're going to find out boys need more refraining, because they've got 10 times more testosterone in their bodies, which means their sexual drives are 10 times more than women. So women can control themselves better, men can't, on the whole. Okay? The other thing here, which I'm going to talk a little bit about later, is masturbation. Okay? That instead of masturbating, you have to fast in our religion. In Islam, masturbation is not allowed. I'm going to cover that later on. And I will explain what that is as well in primary terms, primary language terms. But in Islam, you don't masturbate, you're supposed to fast instead to restrain your desires. Does that make sense? Okay, that is the Islamic ruling. Okay? Now, if you don't get married and you don't fast and you're in love, okay, you will end up doing the forbidden act, which is fornication, which is sexual relations outside of marriage. And we all know that that leads to hellfire. So zina is that big word, and it does lead to hellfire. And when we did our lecture last time and we looked at major sins, we said this was a major sin. And the punishment for this, on this dunya alone, is 100 stripes. Flog each of them with 100 stripes. Let not pity withhold you in their case, in a punishment prescribed by Allah. If you believe in Allah and the last day, and let a party of believers witness their punishment. So it's capital punishment. It is actually capital punishment, and it is there very, very strong punishment as a deterrent. Okay, it is actually a deterrent to stop you doing the act in the first place. Okay, and it's actually less in Islam than it is in Christianity. So in Christianity, did you know you kill them? And do you know you only kill the fornicatress? Did you know that? The fornicator, the man, gets away with it. So when Islam came, it was the fornicatress and the fornicator. And it's 100 lashes.
So I'm just a little bit confused. The fornication is 100 lashes, but that's not capital punishment. But adultery is capital punishment?
No, they both are. They
So
both
the 100
are.
lashes
This is
meant to
in
kill you?
public. Do you know how we know? It says, let a party of believers witness their punishment.
So the 100 lashes is meant to kill you, basically?
No, it doesn't kill you, but you're humiliated in public. The whole dunya knows you've gone and done
But with
this.
adultery, you kill?
Yes, I haven't got to that bit yet. Okay, so isn't that a big fat shame if you're put out in public? But you have to have 4 witnesses who have seen the act in the first place. Because Aisha, the Prophet's wife, was actually accused of adultery. And in the Quran it said, well, show us 4 witnesses who have seen the act in the first place. So although that is there as a deterrent, you can't just do it without evidence. Okay? Right, adultery, the other very, very big major sin. And this is only, both of these are only referring to the actual sexual act. okay, and I'll talk about the other bits in between, but this is the actual relationship that you have, okay, this is only that what we mean. If a married person commits illegal relationship, the punishment is to stone them to death according to Allah's law. That's in Muslim book 17, Hadith 4192. So obviously, look, she's committed adultery, he looks like his dad. That's how he knows that that can't be his child. So he's going to stone her to death, and obviously the elephant dad, whoever it was, in public. Okay, so again, major sin, which you're punished for in this dunya, so it doesn't happen again. Anybody who watches that aren't going to dare do it, are they? Okay, and they may get punished again in the next dunya. We don't know that. That would be up to Allah. Okay, right. Now, that act, it's up to there that the teenagers need to know where to refrain from. So we all know, for example, I already explained that men, did you know men are programmed to reproduce? Did you know that? They actually are programmed to reproduce. Men's sexual drives are 10 times more than women's because their testosterone is higher, naturally from Allah. So they think of that act more. And did you know they are always on the lookout for mates who they can mate with to have children, and they're attracted visually, okay? They can be of any age. They can be of any age, okay? So, what we need to do is put things in place at the secondary age so that they know that they're not allowed to get up to that big major sin that happens. Okay, now women, they are naturally very beautiful out of the two species. They are more attractive. They are there to attract the men, basically. They have more fat on their bodies. They have more curves. They're there for a reason. They have big hips that attracts men because men knows that that woman can have nice, healthy babies. Okay, this is all there for a reason. Women are, in any culture, more fairer in colour, on the whole. Even within black African families, the female is always more fairer than the male. Okay? And did you know they naturally have a tendency to dress up more? If you look at the way they dress, always more in bright colours, more than men are always in greys and navy blues, aren't they, or blacks? And women naturally have a tendency to dress up a bit more colourful. So we are like flowers. This is how you have to explain it to them, and they get it even at a young age. We are the flowers. What are the men? The bees. So they get attracted to the flower that's colourful and fragrant, and they fertilise the flower, don't they? Yes? They extract the nectar first, and then they fertilise that flower, and then more flowers come. So this is a very good way of explaining it to children as well. And when that flower does not need to reproduce, it closes up at night. It closes at night, and it doesn't need to attract the bees. The bees are sleeping then, so the flower closes up. Okay? And did you know in the animal kingdom it is the opposite? In the animal kingdom it is the male who will bring up his great big wings. If we look at this peacock, this is actually, can you believe it, a male peacock. So the male peacock is the one that has the big bright wings to try and attract the female. In our kingdom, in the human kingdom, it's the other way round. Okay, so it's the females are the ones that attract the male. And when you're in love, did you know your dopamine, your serotonin and norepinephrine go really higher? Okay, you get really, really happy when you're in love. You feel on top of the world. Okay? And it is when you're on top of that world that the little sins can happen which are going to lead to the big act. Okay? So the best thing is to get married at that stage. If you don't get married at that stage, then these 4 things psychologically will happen. And this is actually all from journals. So this is the big act, the very big sin. This is the adultery and the fornication. And the little sins that go on. Does anybody know what those little sins may be? Yes? You wouldn't know, would you?
I didn't know.
Hey, how would you know? You're getting a bit worried here, you know, far too much. Adults. I'm only going to pick the adults for this one. Chatting is one, but that doesn't come first though. The first thing is the look, the appearance. The appearance first, okay? So we will look into all of these things, what Islam does to stop all these things, okay? Appearance is first. Then the next one is once you like somebody, you want to chat to them, don't you? You want to talk to them, want to get to know more about them. And then the next bit is, after you've chatted and you think, oh, she's interesting,
Meeting up for coffee.
meeting up. Meeting them, okay? You know it all, you've been through this, haven't you? Right, appearance first, then chatting, then meeting, what's next? After you've met them a couple of times, what do you want to do to them? Touching them. Astaghfirullah. Touching them. You have, this is, believe me, this is science. This is science. This does actually happen in this order. It does.
I did get married.
Yes, yes. You get married at the stage when you're in love. You know when I showed you about the world. Otherwise, these things in order will happen. They will. And then you will end up doing fornication and adultery. That is what is going to happen to you. Okay? So that is the sequence. So in Islam, we have haya at all levels. Haya is part of Iman. Iman and haya, which is sharam, shyness, comes together. Okay? It's not fitting for a believer, man or woman, when a matter has been decided by Allah and His Apostle to have any option about their decisions. If anyone disobeys Allah and His Apostle, he is indeed on a clearly wrong path. That's Surah Azab. And haya and Iman are companions. Haya is the characteristic of a mu'minin. Okay? Right, so appearance is first. What does our religion tell us about appearance? What does it say first in the Quran? To the men first. Because they get attracted visually. Yes.
Lower your gaze.
Lower your gaze. It tells them first. Okay? So, the first thing is, come on bro, lower your gaze. Say to the believing men that they should lower their gaze, and Allah is well acquainted with all that they do. That's in Surah Nur, the light. If a woman passes in front of you, lower your eyes until she has passed away. That's that's Malik, and that's in the Quran. So we know that the first step to adultery or fornication is eyeing somebody up. You've heard of eyeing someone up? Yes? So modesty is to lower your gaze. The eye is the mirror of the heart. If a person lowers his gaze, the heart will lower his desires and whims. But if a person looks, the desire in his heart will be provoked. Okay, so this is basically what men's eyes should be like. There should be a burqa in front of their eyes. If he does look, what's going to happen? Okay, this is what happens to him. Okay? So, phenolphyllamine, it's actually a neurotransmitter, is actually in the human central nervous system is provoked. Okay, so, have you heard of love at first sight? Yes? And that happens when you lock the eyes. So eye contact is a powerful stimulator of love and affection. When you look directly in the eyes, their body produces chemicals that makes the person fall in love, and they're stimulated more visually. Love at first sight. Okay, so first it tells the men, because they're attracted visually, to lower their gaze. Then it tells the women also to lower their gaze as well. Okay, so say to the believing women that they should lower their gaze and guard their modesty. That is in Surah Nur in the Quran as well. And did you know that If you do lock eyes, your pupils get really big because you like what you see and they get bigger. And that's how you fall in love, because you look younger. Do you know that when someone's pupils are bigger, you look like a young girl and a young boy? So that's why I said it can happen at any age. In the restaurants, did you know they're dim lighted for a reason, so couples can fall in love? Did you know that? They're dim lighted for a reason. Now, this is important for you to tell your teenagers, because it also, the ruling is also when you see something on the telly or on your mobile as well. So, sister or mister, lower your gaze. Nowadays, this applies also to social media. Switch the channel if you see something that you think is going to provoke you. Some of these programs are not good out there. You know, ladies are scantily dressed on some of these X Factor shows or Britain's Got Talent. The way they're dressed, it's there to provoke. Is it not? Record sales. Yeah, the more men see that girl, the more they'll fall in love with her, and the more they'll buy her records, and the more money is generated. So the whole music industry basically is very, very sexually provocative. So be careful. Any pornography, lower your gaze. We will talk about all of those subjects in a minute. So it is important. That includes telly, and it includes newspapers, and it includes anything you Google as well. Any ad could come up at any stage. Okay? Right, once you've locked eyes and you like that person, what's the next bit?
Talking.
Yeah, chatting up. So, in Islam, we have been told that we need to cover ourselves, us women, to stop men molesting us. Now, molesting has got a different word nowadays, but it's actually harassment, isn't it? So harassment is a better word. So it does tell you that very clearly, that to stop yourself being harassed. He's following her, she's not wearing a hijab. So what do you expect? And she's got false eyelashes on. We'll come to that later as well. So women are told to cover their beauty. What is the most beautiful part of a woman? Her hair. Crowning glory. Think of us girls, once our hijabs are on, we're much more ugly, are we not?
Yes, true.
Much more uglier.
But still you get harassed, like...
You can still get harassed.
You're still not beautiful.
Well, you're seeing me with a hijab on. If I didn't have my hijab on, I'd be more beautiful. It does cover your beauty. When I look at everybody here, I've seen some of you without hijab on, and your hair is what makes you beautiful, does it not? Yes, you're all agreeing.
It's not
so
falling in love though, because at college and stuff like that, even the hijab girls and stuff like that, they're...
yes, but that's the looking bit, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
And the personality. So I'm going to cover that bit in a minute. So the outward appearance is very important if you want a sudden stop block. Are you going to get chatted up more if your hair's out, or are you going to get chatted up more if you're in a hijab? You can ask men. They're going to go for somebody who is not in a hijab, who they know, yeah, she's that kind of girl, I can grab hold of her quickly. Okay? With the ones with hijabs, they'll think twice. Yeah? Or they'll fall in love with her first, and they'll be more, at least strongly attracted to her first. And by the way, it's the inside that you fall in love with when someone's wearing a hijab, not the outside. It's the personality that you're more likely to fall in love with. And when you're beautiful from the inside, you're beautiful from the outside, are you not? Yes? So this is what you need to do. You're more likely otherwise to go for a girl who may look pretty on the outside and inside she's not religious. Religion is very, very important, is it not, to get married? If you don't have a religion in your wife, you can just forget it, because everything, she will have a different viewpoint on everything. So hair is your crowning glory. You might have heard of the fact that you let your hair down. You know when you go partying, there's an English phrase, let your hair down. That means you let your hair down and you go out and you attract all the men. Okay? So that's where that phrase comes from. Now this is a sweet rapper. This one's got a hijab on it. A sweet girl with a hijab on. And a sweet girl without a hijab. Which one would the men go for? Which one would you rather eat? That one or that one? Yes? you'd eat that one that's covered, which will not have all the bees all over it, extracting the nectar. You need to sit down. You're not a man. Okay, that one is going to be full of germs, is it not? Okay, so it says you cannot avoid them, but you can protect yourself. Your Creator knows better your good wellness. So this is how a hijab works. And a rose protects itself by thorns, and a Muslim woman protects her beauty by hijab. Hijab does not degrade a woman, but actually uplifts a woman and protects her modesty and chastity. I've told so many stories in my hijab lecture, which I'm not going to go into again. So basically, when a woman covers a hijab, she gets a lot more respect. And if she doesn't have a hijab on, you are going to get chatted up, basically, okay, by the wrong kind of blokes. So the hijab makes a statement that a Muslim woman is not available and not interested in any advances. The more she covers, the more it will keep men away. But also if men do fall in love with her, because believe me, men can still fall in love with somebody who's covered, because it's a natural thing, but then you fall in love with the inner person, the personality more, and that is then what a marriage will work on, will it not? If you fall in love with somebody's personality, which doesn't change, whereas appearance does, that marriage will be stronger. If you based your marriage just on looks, everyone gets old and bold, men get old and bold, yes? Women get wrinkly and fat, do they not? Okay, so if you go for the personality. So I've got one video about hijabs in this country, and then we will have our salam.
What's fascinating is the girls' hair is all covered, so women do not show long hair. So you see the girls, the shawls are completely covering them, and you don't see their hair at all, you just see their faces. There's all this debate now about the hijab and about women covering their hair, and we forget that. We've lost that as part of our culture. That 100 years ago, you wouldn't walk out in the streets of Lancashire with your hair down.
Okay, did you know in those days there was hardly any fornication and adultery? In those days, in this country, while the women covered like that.
Put your hair down.
Okay, wigs are not allowed. What is the point of covering your hair and then you wear a great big long wig? Yes? Only for dressing up purposes, like when it's World Book Day and stuff, they're not going to wear a wig. Yes? Or role playing, things like that. But every day you would not be allowed to wear a wig in Islam. Now, is it just hijab or is it other things as well? That we need to look at appearance-wise.
Other things as well?
Yes,
like your body parts?
Body, excellent, well done. A woman's body is naturally curvy, okay? The figure of 8 is there for a reason, to make your hips look big, and that's what men look at, did you know? Because they look for people who've got big hips, who they can then marry and have children. This is nature, okay? So it's very important to hide that figure of 8. When you wear an abaya, that's best. It completely covers your figure. You don't know whether the person's fat or skinny underneath, okay? But when you wear English clothes, trousers is a big no-no in my books. It is, because it shows the whole of your hips, it shows all the regions which men look at, your thighs, everything. Skirts are best. They completely stop that split in the middle and you're completely covered. Skirts and dresses are best, okay? And you can still be fashionable. I go to work, I wear English clothes, and everybody says I'm very smartly dressed and fashionable. So you can still be covered and still be fashionable. That figure of 8 goes, when you get older, it's called the middle-age spread. Have you heard of that? The middle-age spread means this bit gets filled up. Why? Because you're losing your reproductive years, aren't you? So that is only then your prime years while you are reproducing. So the shape of your body does need to be covered, and tight clothes is a big fat no-no. Tight jeans, totally out. Okay? Because you can see the whole of her body. And we talked about minor sins last time. One of them was dressing. We said dressing like that will lead to hellfire, shouldn't go to Jannah. A woman who reveals her body or even wears tight-fitting clothes will not come within 500 years of the smell of Jannah. Okay? Now men do have a dress code as well. They do have a big dress code. I discussed all of that in hijab. For them, basically their aura is from the navel to the knee. So the navel to the knee needs to be covered in loose-fitting clothes. Okay? So no tight jeans, definitely no hanging jeans, and modestly dressed, although not so much, because we don't get attractive visually that much. Okay? Now, sunnahs of dressing, their booklets are over there on the table, and you can have a look at those. And I'm going to play this video.
يا أيها النبي قل لأزواجك وبناتك ونساء المؤمنين يدنين عليهن من جلابيبهن ذلك أدنى أن يعرفن فلا يؤذين وقل للمؤمنات يغضضن من أبصارهن ويحفظن فروجهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا ما ظهر منها وليضربن بخمرهن على جيوبهن ولا يبدين زينتهن إلا لبعولتهن أو آبائهن آباء بعولتهن أبنائهن أو أبناء بعولتهن أو إخوانهن أو بني إخوانهن أو بني أخواتهن أو نسائهن أو ما ملكت أيمانهن أو التابعين غير أولي الإربة من الرجال أو الطفل الذين لم يظهروا على عورات النساء ولا يضربن بأرجلهن ليعلم ما يخفين من زينتهن وتوبوا إلى الله جميعا أيها المؤمنون لعلكم تفلحون.
Allah mentions with lam al-ta'leel, it's called lam al-ta'leel. Lam al-ta'leel means the reason why He wanted us to eat from the tree. The lam will explain why. He says, لِيُبْدِيَ لَهُمَا مَا وُرِيَ عَنْهُمَا مِنْ سَوْآتِهِمَا. He wanted them to go to the tree and eat from the tree so that He could expose to each of them what was covered of their ugliness. He wanted them to lose their clothes. He wanted them to be provocative in front of each other. This is what He wanted. This was His way of humiliating, because Adam alayhi salam was honored, and what better way to humiliate someone than to remove their clothes? You know? And He wanted that for both our mother and our father. What is happening in the world of design? What is happening in the world of entertainment? How are you justifying yourself watching television shows that have, the following has sexual content? You're like, oh, it's just some sexual content. It's a some. I can forward it. You know? I could skip that part. I just see the first second of it. Then I'll say astaghfirullah. Then I'll watch it again when nobody else is there. It's disgusting. But this is what shaitan has done. And he knew that human beings will lose their dignity if they lose their clothes. And now we are living in times where losing the clothing is celebrated. The girls, you know, why are they, there are girls that are dressed and they want to tell themselves they're dressed Islamically. They're covered head to toe. But covering isn't just the Islamic code of dress. It's about protecting, covering what Allah beautified within you. So if you're covered head to toe, but you're wearing skin-tight clothes, you know, or you're drawing attention to certain parts of your body with the kinds of clothes you're wearing, you know, you don't kid yourself, you know. And I'm talking to you like your older brother. I'm not gonna, you know, beat around the bush. It is like it is. My daughters have to hear this from me too. So I'm not going to come and talk to you like just a formal lecture. Somebody might get offended. Look, I'll tell you like it is. You're 14, 15 years old. You're 16 years old, 17 years old. There's no reason you should be dressing like that. There's no reason. And don't kid yourself that you're wearing a hijab, and don't kid yourself. You know? And I'm not going to call you out if you're walking by, hey, dress better or whatever. I'm not going to call you out, but this is my opportunity to call you out. And nobody else can call you out. You have to call yourself out. You have to stop letting shaitan trick you into thinking this is your way of looking beautiful. This is not. This is not. This is sad. This is what it's people who don't have anything higher to find meaning in. This is what they find meaning in. I'm not saying you shouldn't dress nicely. Girls have a natural tendency to want to dress nicely. Guys can look like homeless people and they're fine. Girls have a thing. They want to dress nicely. That's fine. You know, I wouldn't dress like this if my mom didn't tell me. I wouldn't do it. You know, you're gonna go like that? Like that? To a lecture? I was like, okay, mom. All right, fine. I'll dress like a human. But girls want to look pretty. That's fine. You know what? Cool. That's cool. No problem. Allah even says when He revealed clothing, He said warisha, and means to look well, look nice. He did. But not provocative, and you are smart enough to know the difference, and please don't pretend you don't. You know very well. And your mother calls you out on it too. Your mother calls you out and you say, Mom, come on, don't say that. You're embarrassing me. No, she's not embarrassing you. She's giving you a reality check. Because shaitan's messing with you and your mom's trying to help you out. Don't dress like that, don't dress like this. And then, you know, there are those sad, disgusting situations. That needs to stop. So that was one trickery of shaitan that I wanted to highlight for the young ladies.
The purpose of the hijab is to divert the sight. The purpose of the hijab is to conceal. The purpose of the hijab is to protect. The purpose of the hijab is to set a standard and to send a message that this sister is a practicing Muslim woman and she's not the kind of cheap individual with low self-worth that sells themselves for a low price. That is what the hijab is for. And there are sisters telling our sisters in Islam to remove their hijab in a different way. Whether it is the way that they wear it, or the color, or the design, or the way to look at it. And none of them have any knowledge of Islam, or any knowledge of fiqh. The best of the pleasures of this dunya, the best thing that you can have in this dunya is a pious woman. And this asset of ours is being eroded and attacked by the non-Muslims and by some of the Muslims as well. And so it's an obligation upon all of us to come together to stop this, to come together to educate, to support, and to encourage and to teach our families and to prevent them from those things which would harm them, whether those things come from the school or whether they come from the TV or whether they come from the internet.
I mentioned right at the beginning that the best way for anything to go forward is to get married. One way you can know that a woman is worth marrying is if she's wearing a hijab, because she will be practicing. Okay, so that is one way, one guideline you can look at when you're looking for a spouse. And the other one is, the other litmus test is how many friends does she have? How many practicing friends does she have? Because you can tell the character of a woman by looking at her friends, okay? So if there's somebody who doesn't have any friends, you know she's not going to be a likable character because nobody likes her. She doesn't have any friends. Or she may be, have friends who are not practicing, and you can tell that as well. So those are the two guidelines that I always mention to the youngsters, really. And then we need to move on to other things. So other things which draw attention also, I'm looking at ankle bells here. We're not allowed to wear those because they actually make a sound when you walk. and they draw attention, don't they, to your feet. Makeup, it depends what it is. I had a conversation earlier with somebody here. There are certain makeup that we are allowed, and surma or eyeliner is one of them. Okay, so antimony we are allowed. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself said it's okay. If you look at niqabs, you still see the eyes, don't you? Okay, so when you wear a niqab full, you can still see the eyes. Okay, so that is fine. Mehendi is also fine. Henna is absolutely fine because it is actually something which Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us to wear to distinguish us from a man. Okay, so there was a woman who knocked on the door and he told her, put henna on your hands to distinguish your hand from a man's hand. Nail polish we already spoke about on the death lecture. It is not allowed, and all those false nails which are out, it's not allowed in Islam. It's unhygienic, and your wudu is not complete with nail polish on. Okay? Other things which are rife out there. I'm only looking at the things which are rife out there, by the way. Otherwise, watch my hijab lecture if you want the full lot. So nails are really rife out there. False eyelashes are out there, a lot. Okay, really in fashion. False eyelashes come under the same ruling as wigs. It doesn't have to be real hair, it can be nylon hair. You're still changing the nature of Allah. Okay, and you are wearing them to attract attention more to your eyes. And the flattering business, did you know, is a mating exercise. So did you know when you like somebody, you flatter your lashes more. So it draws attention to that flattery more when you are wearing the eyelashes. The other one that's back in fashion is actually blusher. Okay, so did you know that originally prostitutes wore blusher? Because it basically gave the same illusion of an aroused person. Okay, so if somebody's fair-skinned, naturally they may blush. A fair-skinned person naturally blushes more because you see the blood more under their skin. But to artificially put blusher on is not really allowed because it's a mating exercise. It's actually trying to attract men to you by saying, you know, I'm sexually aroused, basically. Okay, so it's not good at all. But if you naturally go like that, that's different, isn't it? Because you're not artificially making yourself like that. Any plastic surgery is not allowed in Islam. That's Mona Lisa. She's had, what do you call those, Botox injections done on her skin. You are actually tampering with nature. Plastic surgery is not allowed in Islam because you are tampering with Allah's destiny. If Allah gave you a fat nose, He gave you a fat nose. And that fat nose, stop it, me and Aaron have got a secret joke about this. If you've got a fat nose, it's genetically from your ancestors. So not only are you changing your nose, you're changing your ancestry, your genetics, are you not? Okay? If it's for medical reasons, that's different. I do know a poor Muslim lady who got burnt and she had all, you know, psychologically affected because she was completely burnt. That's different. Okay? I'm talking about beauty plastic surgery. And again, I explained already, if you're beautiful on the inside, you'll be beautiful on the outside. The lady was asked what she used to make her complexion so beautiful and her whole being so bright and attractive. She answered, I use for my lips truth, I use for my voice kindness, I use for my ears compassion, I use for my hands charity, I use for my figure uprightness. Isn't that lovely? I use for my heart love, I use for any who do not like me prayer. Okay? That is what makes you beautiful, not what you look like on the outside. If you've got both, you're very lucky, aren't you? Now, it's not just hijab, but it is also your way, your mannerisms, okay? So the way you talk, the way you walk, okay? I think Seema's told before, she goes, no man's ever going to look at you the way you talk like a sergeant major. They're not going to, nowhere near going to ask you out, are they? Unless they really do fall in love with you. from the deepness of that. They're not going to play around with you, are they? Because the way I talk to men, they're scared of me. Most men are scared of me because we don't want to talk to her. She's going to like slap us one kind of thing. So hijab includes the way a person walks, talks, looks and thinks. All of it should be done modestly and applies to both men and women. Hijab isn't only about clothes. Hijab includes moral conduct, behavior, attitude and intentions of the individual. Hijab also means lowering the gaze to avoid the sins of the eye and the heart. So it's everything, okay? Right, we've done appearance. Who can remember the next minor sin that leads to fornication or adultery? So the first one was attraction, wasn't it, which we've covered. So what was the next one?
Chatting.
Chatting is next, okay? So nowadays, the biggest chatting you get really, if you think about it, is on mobile phones, okay? You can even meet people over the internet through Facebook dating and all of that is going on. We need to be really, really careful, and you need to tell your teenagers this before it even happens, because there are so many people on the internet who are there to woo you in, okay? They don't know what you look like, they don't know you, but they will flatter you just so that they can satisfy their desires. That person could be an illegal immigrant who's trying to get a passport into the country. I have had one sister who's been abused twice, met a dating partner over the internet and ended up being used and abused just for a British passport. So be very, very careful, okay? Do not marry anybody unless you've met them first in person and looked into their family background. Okay, and sexting is a very big one. Somebody who had to go early has just mentioned to me it's rife. She also works in a university. I know about all of these things. How? Because I work in a university right with the teenagers. So sexting is actually part of child protection training. Do not withdraw your children from that training in schools. They need it, because all of that training is about being cautious about on the phone who you are talking with, okay? Sexting is a particular type of texting which actually promotes sexual desires and that kind of stuff. So these are the latest symbols out. This is actually from my child protection training, which I've done before. And again, I can send this to you if you need it. And it's all the things which, there may be innocent things which they're sent to you and they mean something else. But look at the context first, because I send fruit to people. It doesn't mean that, does it? You know what I mean? So please look at the context first, in which context that conversation is happening. You have to think out of the box with a lot of these things. It doesn't mean if somebody sends you, I don't know, a banana, that's what it means, does it? Okay? You have to look at the context in which that conversation is taking place. If it's an unknown person, then yes, that's probably what it means. Okay? Now, grooming happens through sexting. Grooming is a very, very big thing in modern days, and it leads to modern day slavery. I have been on a course on this recently. So the grooming line happens with somebody who you don't know, where they try and groom you to come into another country. So for example, I know this poor Eastern European girl who was very poor, and she was groomed through the internet by a man who made her fall in love with her, sent her a passport to come to Britain. Once she got here, he made her into a prostitute. This is actually happening more often than what you think. It really is. You just need to go down Ilford Lane and you see them all there. Some of them actually know it's happening, but they need the money. They need to get out of the circumstances that they are in. So again, this training is given to you in schools. Do not withdraw your child out of it. They need it because it's happening big time out there. First there's the targeting stage, then the friendship forming stage, then the loving relationship stage, and the last one is the worst, because that's what then breaks your heart and you wake up and you realise what's going on. And All of this is leading to prostitution. So whether you're trying to get someone to do prostitution or you're engaging in it yourself, they need to know prostitution is completely wrong. It's one of the sins that was happening before Islam. Okay? And again, it's nothing happening between a couple. A couple, married couple, are the ones only who can have the sexual relationship. Okay? Modern day slavery is huge out there. Like I said, I went to a course recently with Essex Police. I'm an advisor for Essex Police in terms of ethnicity and Islam. And when they think there's a topic where Muslims are involved in, they call me. So it's not just happening with non-Muslims, it's happening with Muslims. So wake up, everybody. Okay? Modern day slavery, it's an umbrella term that covers human trafficking, slavery, servitude, forced labor. Human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or purchase of persons for the sole purpose of exploitation. And trading human beings, victims are coerced into dependence through debt, bondage, violence, or drugs. They are deprived of their personal rights, freedom of speech, independence, and self-respect. So what happens is, with that Eastern European girl who came here and was made into a prostitute, her passport was taken away from her, so she couldn't go back again. And everything she earned went to the man who brought her here to pay for her ticket, her air ticket flight to come here. And the circumstances she was living in were awful. Toilet was in the ground. Okay, it was a squatting place. And then she ran away from them. And that's how I know about her. So, believe me, I have seen things out there which nobody has seen, so I do know what I'm talking about. Please tell your children about this. It could happen to them. Look at Shamima Begum. Did she not go to Syria? That was a Muslim practicing woman, was it not? She went to Syria. She was groomed. How? Through the internet. And she's still paying now, isn't she? So be careful. This chart here shows that one of the modern day slavery is actually sex exploitation, and it's happening here in the Romanian region the most as well. And guess who's going to them? Someone said it earlier. Imams. Imams are going to them. Okay, and this is not the first time I've heard that. I have heard it many, many times. Imams who are supposed to be practicing Muslims, who are supposed to be role models of the Prophet. They're doing this. So what's going to happen with the rest of the men then? Do you see? And this needs to be tackled really. And it is a very big problem in our society. Yet they're supposed to know their religion. So it is very, very important we know about all of this. Indicators of sexual exploitation: victims forced into prostitution, pornography, or lap dancing for little or no pay, deprived of their freedom of movement, subject to threats of violence, no documentation, children sexually exploited and trafficked. Okay? So again, what I said earlier was that all of this sexting business, be careful. Keep an eye on your children. Keep an eye on their laptops. Keep an eye, where are they going? Who are they chatting to? Make sure they chat in front of you and tell them about the worries of chatting to other people who they do not know. If you know somebody, that's completely different. Look at the context. Okay? Also, explain to them about this in case they get into prostitution. You don't know that. You don't know which peer pressure they're going to follow. Okay? Right, chatting's over, now what? What's the next stage? So you found someone on the internet and you've fallen in love with them. You're going to meet with them, aren't you? Yes? So meeting is, these are all psychological steps which are actually proven that happens in stages to lead to that act. So every male and female will do this if the blockage doesn't happen, if you know what I mean. Okay, this is normal, if you know what I mean, what happens in normal stuff. So the next one is dating. This is the only kind of date you can get in Islam. Okay, it's true. That's the only kind of date you can get in Islam, because in Islam you get married, don't you? Straight away. You skip to the last bit. You don't want all the in-between boring bits. You just get to the last bit. So again, this is the only date that you can get in Islam. Other kinds of date, you should not meet somebody alone in a dating context. Okay, now I'm saying dating context here for a reason, because sometimes you're alone with somebody in a doctor's meeting, or you may have an interview with somebody, or someone like myself, I do counselling sessions with young students. You have to close the door and be in a room on your own, it's confidential. Okay, so this is actually in a dating context. So then obviously it's wrong, because the shaitan will be the third person there. The Messenger of Allah said, when a non-mahram man and woman meet in privacy, the third one present is shaitan. And that is theory. Okay? Again, like I said, it depends on circumstances. But your children do need to know. They also need to know your worth more than being someone's girlfriend or boyfriend. Either you're married or you're not. Do not glorify Haram relationships. A husband wants to complete half of your deen. A boyfriend wants to destroy whatever deen you have left. And with girls who are very religious, you have to also look at their family honor. Okay, now there is so much stuff in the media about no family honor. You don't need to worry about it, but it's in the Quran. Is family honor not there with Maryam? Okay, when she came back with her baby, Jesus, did the people not say that your mother wasn't a bad woman and your father wasn't a bad man? And how comes you're like this? This shows family honor. And your father's family honor is destroyed the most when you try and do things like this. Okay? So one asked her, why don't you have a boyfriend? She replied with confidence, why would I have a boyfriend? First, I'm a believer and I can't displease my God. He ordered me not to have a boyfriend. Allah says in the Quran, nor those who take secret lovers. So it is actually in the Quran. Second, I'm a daughter of a man who raised me up with a chaste woman. I'm the sister of the man who is proud of my purity and who will do anything for my respect. I also don't want to disappoint my future husband, the father of my children, and I'm born just for him. Third, I'm not an easy girl who is impressed with just some sweet words. Again, if you wear a hijab, men know straight away she's not that kind of girl, really. Unless they're serious about her, then they will only then start that kind of stuff. Okay, you've done the dating. What comes next in the psychology side of it? Touching. Touching, naturally. Because you want to mate and have children, don't you? So touching is the next stage in the mating cycle. And in Islam, again, we've got a boundary. In fact, Islam is the only religion that has boundaries there which doesn't lead to the adultery and fornication stage. So Islam actually closes all avenues leading to fornication, including stimulating desires. So shaking hands, there's a reason. Okay, so oxytocin is released when you touch somebody. Oxytocin is the same endorphin which is released when a mother hugs his child or breastfeeds. It's a bonding exercise. So when you touch somebody who you like, it takes you to the next stage. Does that make sense? Okay? So again, get your context right. If it's a nurse or a doctor or a pharmacist, that's different, isn't it? Okay? This is only somebody who you are attracted to. So again, your teenagers need to know about that level. If they get to that level, you know they're ready to get married. They're so in love with that person, they need to get married, basically. Because they want to, I don't know, be with that person and have children, basically. so they need to get married. It is still not late, is it? Is it too late? No, but it will be too late after this stage, won't it? Okay? Get your context right, because you may be in an interview, okay? I had to meet Prince Charles and I had to shake his hand. I couldn't say, sorry, I can't shake your hand, can I? While I'm in the middle of Buckingham Palace. So get your context right. I'm only talking about people who you are attracted to, okay? Now, that actually, the whole of that, but plus much more, is a different lecture of its own. So if you want to learn more, this is my Science of Attraction lecture. Okay, we will carry on now to masturbation, okay? Now, masturbation is not allowed, I already said, in Islam, because you are artificially giving yourself pleasure without getting married, okay? And in the RSC curriculum, it does tell you that masturbation is okay. So this is another thing which is in the curriculum, and it tells you that masturbation is okay. You can do that. But in Islam, you're not allowed. Why?
Increasing the afterpay.
Right, good. So basically you are not getting married, and you're artificially trying to get that pleasure instead of getting married. Okay? So this will stop you getting married. It will desensitize your emotions as well, your feelings that you get. And like I said, in Islam, and actually, did you know that the Bible prohibits it as well?
Is it a lesser sin than fornication though, if it's stopping you from going to fornication?
It's a lesser sin than fornication. If you don't get married at the touching stage, that is what is going to happen, you see. So that teenager who's in love and hasn't got married has got to let out its feelings somewhere, so they're most likely to masturbate. But in Islam, masturbation is not allowed. Marriage is number one. If you can't marry, you fast. Okay? So this is the only way, really, to suppress your feelings is to fast in Islam. And you're artificially doing something without having a spouse with you.
So is there physical harm as well?
Yes, there's lots of harms. In fact, there's psychological harms in it as well. Okay? And then why do you need to get married? Do you see? So then you're not going to get married when you're getting the pleasure for free anyway without the nagging wife. Think about it. Why would you need a nagging wife to nag you to death when you can just get that anyway? Do you understand? So there's a lot of problems because of it. Okay? And then, again, if you don't get married at that stage, and you want the feeling of, I don't know, having children and all the rest, or you want to satisfy your desires, then pornography is going to come at that stage, okay? Pornography is rife out there, by the way, amongst the teenagers, because at a touch of a button you can get whatever you want in your own house, okay? In Islam, pornography is not allowed. We already spoke about what was happening in Islam before Islam came, and nudity was one of them. You're exposing private parts in public, which you're not allowed to see any private part apart from your own spouse. So you're doing haram there. And we already know this because in the Quran it tells you about Adam and Eve's private parts were exposed and they quickly had to cover them up through shaitan. You're committing zina of your eyes. So on Qiyamah Day, your eyes are going to speak and say, this man saw a naked woman with me. The eyes are going to speak. We know, do we not? On Day of Judgment, all your body parts speak. And did you know also that pornography is addictive? So once you get into it, you're not going to be able to get out of it, and then when you do get married, nothing is going to be the same pleasure as what you've seen in the pornography. It's not the same, is it? Okay? So please stay away from it. It doesn't just mean watching it, it means newspapers, televisions. If there's a love scene on the telly, you switch over. Tell them at a young age. When I was child, it was drummed into us actually. The moment something bad, a kissing scene came on the telly, quick, change the channel. Wasn't it? In our culture. Did you know that culture's going now and the parents are bare shame in front of the kids? Hugging and kissing in front of the kids. That is not Islam. In Islam there is haya and modesty. You do not kiss in front of your kids or even hug each other or call them darling or I love you. You don't do that. You do it in the privacy of your own bedroom. That is the way Islam is. Think of the Prophet. Did he do that? He loved his wives. Haya is half of your faith. Okay? The youngsters nowadays don't know that. They're copying whatever they see in the movies and the films and the soap operas. In our religion, there's haya. You do not do that. Okay? Right. Pornography, I already explained about this ayah, about the private parts being revealed after Shaitan enticed Adam and Eve. So we're not allowed to do any of that. And we do need to explain to children that the act only happens when you get married. Okay, so again, at that stage, again, you do need to tell them everything. Children do need to know at the teenage years about wet dreams. That's a natural thing. Your hormones are all up in the air, and either you're going to have a dream about your girlfriend who your mum's not letting you marry, okay, and your feelings are going to get aroused and then you'll have a wet dream, or it can happen anyway because your hormones are all over the place. This happens to men and to women, both, but you must tell them it is natural. There's no shame in this because that you can't help, but you have to have a ghusl afterwards, okay? So again, hygiene needs to be explained to your teenagers. Once a man breaks his voice and a girl starts her monthly, they're ready to reproduce, and if they don't get married, the likelihood of them getting wet dreams will be high. Okay? So tell them about the ghusl and stuff. Now, that does bring me to the end. You're all saying, thankfully, I don't want to hear any more. I've heard enough taboo subjects for one day. But those of you who are a bit with it with the world, I know Nick is, and I know the other lady who I spoke to, it's rife out there. It's about time you woke up. That's all I can say. It is rife out there, all this stuff, and worse, actually. So the Prophet did say at the end of time, there will come a time when holding on to your religion will be like holding burning coal. That is in Tirmidhi. Right. Nick, if you could please put the lights on. And we will put one microphone in the men's and one in the ladies, and then I will choose one brother and one sister to make it fair, and whoever puts their hand up. So let's start off with the sisters. Have you got a question? Right, we've got a question there at the back.
Assalamu alaikum. Just a quick question regarding LGBT area around that. If a student approaches,
okay, phew. I'm scared of him. Yes.
If a student approached to you, a female student, and say that I am attracted to another female. If a student.
Right. A Muslim student or non-Muslim? Muslim, right.
A female around age 16 approach to you and say, I am attracted to another female, and I feel those kind of bonding, and what should we as Muslim, how our response should be, basically.
Right. Believe it or not, I have come across this. I've come across a lot in my life, haven't I? I have a very exciting lifestyle. I have come across this, and they didn't actually know the religion. They thought it was okay because from what they saw from outside, they were desensitized to it all, and they actually thought it was okay. So after I explained to them, it's not in our religion, we don't do this, we only marry opposites. Prophet Lot's story, obviously I did it in an adult way to frighten the life out of her, not in the baby fashion I did today. Everything about going against nature, Adam and Eve, the male and the female in fruit, the male and the female in animals, all of that, explained all of that. She did begin to understand, and she did find out later on that that friend was her best friend, and it wasn't sexual feelings. She found out that was her best friend. She just got that mixed up with sexual feelings. Okay? So I'm glad you asked that question, because a lot of people think it doesn't happen with Muslims. But actually it does. It does. In fact, my, gosh, who was it I was talking to the other day? Oh, I know, because just yesterday I met up with my school friends. And the school I went to was an only girls' school. And the lady there, there's a lady there who teaches there now, and she said that all the girls, they're all lesbians. They think they are because they're only exposed to girls. So any feelings that they have, they mistake that for sexual feelings. And I said to her, hang on a minute, aren't there any male teachers in your school? Because when I was there, there were male teachers. She said, no, they're all females. So then how will they understand the different kinds of feelings? So yes, segregation is very important in Islam, but that doesn't mean you totally segregate them, that they don't even know what it feels like, if you like.
Yeah, how awful is that to think that you're sending your child to school segregated and they're going to be with all girls, and you have another problem instead?
So this wasn't happening in the days when I was at school, because I remember fancying one of my teachers, actually. So, yeah, so, you know, I know it didn't happen with me. I had loads of friends, I'm still in touch with them. And yes, I did know the feeling when you saw a man. But nowadays, they don't know that feeling, so then they're ending up liking girls. So it is a big problem.
Doesn't it worry you sometimes if you see schoolgirls like holding hands or being like, in our days it wasn't regarded as like anything bad, you'd like hold your, or
yeah,
your,
but nowadays you'll be classed as
exactly,
being lesbian, so you have to be careful. Yeah. Right, can we have a brother next, please? Okay, right, any brothers? Noman, have you got any questions today?
Men have got wives in, say for example, Pakistan. A couple of them, about 3 or 4 wives. I know somebody, he's married to a woman in Pakistan, but he's got another wife here, okay? Obviously, there would he be prosecuted under the charge of bigamy, okay? And also morally, I hear that some wife, the first wife, might like it because, like, he might be sort of like earning extra money.
Yeah, okay, it all depends on. In this country, you wouldn't have a registration, okay? So according to English law, you wouldn't have a registration with 2 wives. You can only be under the registry office for 1 wife, okay? But nikah, which is Islamic, yes, you can have that up to 4 wives, okay? Right, let's have one of the sisters next. Okay.
Is that right?
Yeah, there is one girl at the back, but let's do you first.
The question I had is regarding a little bit about the cultural aspects of, we say that we should get our children married younger, and we're all like, well, I'm sitting here thinking, yes, that's great, I'll try to do that. The reality is quite different sometimes in practice, in the culture we say, oh, the boy's not educated yet, he's not at university, he's not got a job, and all the problems happen at college and university. That's where all the... Have you got any practical tips on overcoming these cultural ideas, because we're the parents and we're responsible actually for overcoming that, yet we're the ones that are holding back and saying, Nai's not ready yet, Betty's not ready yet, she doesn't know how to cook, he doesn't have a job, and we're still stuck in that mentally. So how can you overcome that?
Okay, the problems we're having nowadays, first of all, they would only need to get married if they fell in love. So you would wait a little while until the boy got a job, and then you would get your daughter married, okay? But if they fell in love early in the uni and college days, then according to Islam, you don't need any money to get married. They'll come and live with you in your millionaire house. Will they not? You'll be providing them money and clothes and shelter.
No one wants to go for joint family systems anymore. So
but then you, as a father, the fathers again are responsible. You give them a bit of deposit for their house and get them a house or flat. Why? The problem why all this is happening is people want millionaire houses, cars, that kind of stuff.
that's what
If
I
you're
see,
really in love with each other, a little Havering Council flat will do.
That's exactly the problem. See, greed is like basically making
Our
further
standard of
problems.
living is too high nowadays.
Yes, it's very
And if we
tragic.
follow Islam, the Prophet only needed a bed to sleep on, didn't he? Not saying follow that and completely be like that, but all you need is a little council house, which if you're on benefits, the council will pay for you anyway. A little bit your mum and dad can do, and then you've got your own little place. Yeah, and when you're in love, everything's heaven, isn't it? Because you're norepinephrine and your dopamine and your serotonin's high, so you're happy. Okay? Right, any more brothers?
I'm talking about the grooming, yeah?
Yes, yes.
What kind of, teenager or any young grooming about here? But it is very scary, nowadays, all our young...
It is, yes.
Yeah, look, some girls are going to Syria.
Yes, they are. I mentioned about that, yes.
And sometimes you say some girl coming from Eastern European.
Yeah, that's right.
How to prevent those...
Prevention really is, first of all, allow your children to go to the CEOP training, which is in schools. I've actually run those before. So they do get trained in schools not to start talking to anybody who they do not know online. That's through Facebook or even WhatsApp. Do you know sometimes you're in a group of lots of people and then someone can get in touch with you individually through WhatsApp. So they need to be aware of the system, what happens. So that story I gave you of that poor Eastern European girl whose passport was taken away. First of all, this man, he groomed her, he flattered her, and then said, do you want to come to England? Remember, England is so big out there in poor countries. Then she came here, and then he took her passport away, and she put her in a prostitute brothel, basically. They need to be aware of that before, that this is what happens, so that they are aware.
What about some girl going to holiday, yeah? And they're university educated girls, sometimes they groom with, I heard a lot of news about it. They're going to holiday and then they are killed or they are, what, is the same like grooming this case or?
Yeah, I haven't heard about people going abroad and it happening there, but what I've heard is from abroad people end up coming here.
No, from here in these countries, yeah, some girl.
Yeah, I know one sister, poor thing, who ended up.
Yeah, she's mixed with a boy.
With a
and
Moroccan
boy
bloke, and
killer.
he ended up doing it just to get the visa into the country. But then it's up to parents to look into things as well. It could be genuine. I'm not saying everybody's.
No, grooming. Any type of how many type of grooming? Just
there's
sometimes.
There's 4 or 5 types of grooming. The one I discussed today was sex exploitation, which is to do with our lecture. But there's others, like people come over for slaves. You know these doctor homes in Hornchurch? It's true. Honestly, £10 a week. I know one lady doctor in Hornchurch, in the Emerson Park houses. £10 £10 a day she's giving someone who she's got over from Pakistan. That is modern day slavery. And she's taken away the passport so the woman can't go back again. And she's treated like dirt, that poor lady. Because I went to their house and I told her, she had cooked everything basically, and the lady pretended she had cooked everything. And then when we sat down to eat, you know me, I've got a soft heart, I said to the poor servant lady, I said, why don't you join us, come and sit with us. So I made her come and sit on our table. I tell you, the woman whose house it was did not like that at all. Do I care? No. She did not. She goes, how comes, that untouchable you might put on our table?
You didn't get invited?
Yeah. So there is, and there's drug grooming, that's the other one. Yep, so drug grooming, where people, get into gangs, prostitution, and the other one is slavery in the house, domestic.
That's why your program is, we have to learn how to look after our children.
We do. This is why I did all this.
School,
I had a lot of problems, but everybody's happy from what I've seen. Everybody's very happy I did this. Right, shall we have a sister now? Because we need to move to the sisters.
Even not our Muslim society. Even not our Muslim society, also in other society as well.
Yes, everybody.
Everybody, not only
right,
this.
can we pass the microphone back to the lady there? And then we'll do another brother, and then we'll come back to this sister, and then we need to finish up. She's stolen the microphone. I saw that.
What's the appropriate age for
teachers to teach children about wet dreams? Because I believe it's quite young.
Right. When they, no, not primary school, no. When boys, especially boys, have wet dreams, when their voices go deep, it means the testosterone has kicked in, and that is when the semen's going to start getting produced, and that's when they're going to have the wet dreams. So when they break their voices, okay. And hairiness.
They're going to teach it in primary.
Wet dreams is not in the primary curriculum, it's in the secondary curriculum. Masturbation is in the primary curriculum. Okay, you're getting mixed up. Okay, right, back to the lady over there.
Sorry, it's just a kind of let's say contribution or something. You know, when you're saying something about hijab, that when you wear it, you look ugly. I think with kids.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you look ugly because that woman goes pretty. But what I'm saying is it decreases your beauty by half. It does decrease your beauty by half, at least.
Because like she just came and like, oh, she said we look ugly when I wear hijab, and that is.
Who said that?
No, my girl.
Oh.
Like, she said when you wear hijab, you look ugly, because that is one thing that using encouraging her.
Okay, but your inside is more beautiful, isn't it?
So I was
okay,
trying to...
I'll sort her out because she's not. Your inside is more beautiful, isn't it, Arifa? Okay. When you wear hijab, from the inside you are more beautiful. You're more practicing Muslim. Okay, and you're more precious like a diamond because you're covered. If you look at diamonds, you put them in a jewelry box, you put them in a little pouch, you respect them. Okay, you don't let a diamond just out like that in public, do you? For any old man to grab hold of, any old burglar.
To the right people, you look beautiful too.
To the right people, you look beautiful. The people who are not going to use and abuse you for their own desires. Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you know, when you're in a hijab, you attract the sharif kind of men, I don't know what to call you, innocent kind of men, decent men, don't you? You don't get the vagabonds out there that are in the gang cultures. Yeah.
Then the second one is, you know, we are in Islam, we are advised to like peck our children. To give them a peck, tell them you love them.
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
yes, that's part of the bonding, isn't it, between mother and child?
Yeah, between mother and child. And you said, I know there should be modesty, because you know there are so many ways we pass message to all these children. Like, it's normal when that is our own way of doing things. When my husband comes in, I comes in, he's always Assalamu alaikum with a peck.
Yes,
but when you say we don't do that in
children and adults, parents, absolutely fine. What I was talking about was when a husband and wife do in front of the child. That is not Islamic at all. The Prophet didn't, did he?
I know, I know, modesty, you know, it's not like you do not every other thing, but when you, like you
there's a certain amount of haya in our culture where you try and do that kind of stuff behind doors.
Yeah, I know,
in your own
sure.
privacy of your own room.
What you're saying, you show affection but not in a
you show affection but not in that way.
Yeah.
Not physically. And even words sometimes you just don't. Okay? Right, your daughter has got a question. Has she really got a question?
Do I?
Because I don't know what she's going to ask. Come forward, Arifa. What is it you want to ask? Is it related to this, though? Because she's a bit young, but anyway. What is it you want to ask, or did you just want to hold the microphone? Right, what is it then? I hope you're not going to embarrass me. What is it you want to say? Come a little away from the light. Yeah.
If you want to marry somebody and you don't know them, but since knows you, do you marry them or not?
What did you say? So if you like somebody but you don't know them, huh? So what do you mean if you like somebody? Just by looking at them? Is that what you mean? Yeah, but it just, I already said appearance is not good enough, is it? You could end up with God knows who. It's not the appearance, it's the inside of the person you have to look at. Appearance will fade with time. It could be a drug dealer for you know. So, yeah, it's got to be the inside you fall in love with. Okay, not the appearance. You're doomed and gloomed if it's appearance. Right, last question, because I think...
Yeah, the talk of modesty and everything reminds me of my childhood.
Yes.
My grandfather
would
look at the page 3 of a certain newspaper. I used to be so uncomfortable with it. I'd be watching his eyes to see if he's watching the article or if he's looking at the picture, and I couldn't wait till he turned that page.
Right.
Yes. So we should be aware, although I thought also like the...
There's a lot of modesty within Irish culture as well, isn't there?
So we might be, as all of desensitized to things, but we should watch what's going on in our house, in the TV, because our kids are watching us, they're taking an example from us.
I say this time and time again, children, no matter what age they are, they learn from their parents, learned behaviour. Whatever the mum and the dad do, the children will learn and they copy. Believe me, no matter what age. This is psychology, is it not? The children learn everything. They are watching their parents the whole time. They're even watching your relationships with other people. Did you know? They're even watching your relationship with your friends or with your own family. And then they copy you. So you really do need to be good role models, and again, you can't go wrong with the practicing wife or husband. The husband will copy the Prophet and the wife will copy the Prophet's wife. How can you go wrong then? You'll be the best of people, won't you? Yeah? So that is what we need to aim for. Right, I'm going to stop now, whether you've got questions or not, but I'm sure some of you are going to message me. I thought it went well today anyway.